Okay.
All right. Oh, wait, you're in good hands, except for the part where we just went live and I actually didn't even notice it. So, welcome to Intercultural Spark, that show about the spark inside you that drives you to spark change in the world through mission driven businesses and life projects. I am delighted to have with me today Rachel Gadson. She is the founder of ILA Creative. I love art. Rachel also, though, so she's an artist. She is building a community for support and connection with Black artists, and also now, though, she's taking the whole thing to a next level by actually growing it into an app. So, welcome, Rachel Gadson, to Intercultural Spark, and welcome to everyone who is joining us today. That's so funny. I always love when people behind the scenes
Hi.
are like dancing. So I always forget to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Deanna. So I am the host of Intercultural Spark, and it's so much fun. You know, we had so much isolation and disconnection once the whole pandemic started, and through Intercultural Spark, I've been reaching out to entrepreneurs, to people who are really living the dream of making change, and just finding out like how people do it. And it's so inspiring to
Yeah.
see how people are just like living lives and really making a difference in the world.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
wow.
Well, thank
So,
you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat
oh,
today.
my pleasure. And thank you for everyone who's joining us live or if you watch after the fact. Just a reminder that in the comments, you can actually ask questions and stuff. And so we would love for you to say hello. We don't know who's here unless you say hi or leave comments ask questions in the comments. So, all right, Rachel Gadson. So,
Yes.
uh, I was thinking about you and the idea that people always say, like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So not denying the fact that you are working like I can't even imagine. We'll hear about that part. But before we get to the how hard you're working, I mean, ILA
Yeah.
stands for I love art. How has your love of art kind of permeated all that you do to get you to this moment?
It's the foundation. It really has been my why. It's just on all fronts. I'm not tied to one specific discipline of art. I really embody and truly carry the full statement of all things art, from literature to paintings to dance. It really, for me, is a way to connect. It's a way to express, and it's a way to release. And that is just something that we all as humans need on a daily basis. And so that is why it's the foundation for why I've grown to love it. It's very much so like home.
Mhm. And what do you do? Because I know we actually know each other in your capacity as a graphic artist creating artwork, but what's your training? And didn't you train, like you trained in Italy too? Didn't you spend a whole year or semester in Italy learning art?
I
Yeah, tell me more
did.
about
I
that.
did. So my profession is graphic design, graphic artist.
Okay.
Yes, we work together. But I also, when I started, the first thing that I did with art was a lot of paintings and a lot
Mhm.
of charcoal drawings and pastel drawings. And so it developed into this love. It was actually my art teacher in high school
Mm.
who said, "Hey, you should look into graphic design,
Okay.
digital art, digitizing your
Ah,
art."
okay.
And so that is why I majored in graphic design in college, and then I studied graphic design in Florence. Yes, at Studio Arts Center International for 3 months.
Yeah, that actually sounds amazing because Florence itself, like when you look at that bridge, like Florence looks like a painting. So the idea of like studying art in Florence sounds
It
amazing. So, um, all right. So,
does.
so we met. I mentioned that before. So we met at Jewish Child and Family Services, which I guess I need to do two things. 'Cause I'm already jumping ahead of my own question because I'm thinking. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now in terms of serving the Black community. My point, making the connection that we met at Jewish Child and Family Services, is that's an organization that, supports the Jewish community. What's
Yeah.
the value or what's the idea behind and this also has an assumption that I'm making in my question, but the idea of connecting your identity, your own identity to who you serve. Can you talk about your vision for that, or if I even made the wrong assumption with how I framed it?
No, it's exactly it. It was at JCFS where the seed was planted for me to serve my community. I saw, and I don't know if it's culturally relevant in other people or in other
Mhm.
lives, but I felt and still sort of feel some type of um, fear in being non-inclusive or not
Mhm.
non-inclusive, but being solely tied to serving my community, serving my people. But I felt like that layer of um, uh, ease was let down when I witnessed what JCFS,
Mhm.
how unapologetic they were and strong that they were in serving the Jewish population. It actually is what made me feel very much so confident in doing the same for Black artists and Black people here in the city. And so I hope I answered that. I don't know if
Mhm.
that touched on the question you
Actually, what you bring up though, Rachel, what you bring up is the same thing. You probably remember this from when we worked together. So I was in charge of marketing and communications for Jewish Child and Family Services. Rachel did all of our graphic design, and I was the one who would always be like, "Well, don't forget, we serve everybody." Like I struggled with that as well. Just
Mhm.
the whole idea of being, because here's the question, and then maybe what's your thought on this is serving a specific community. I mean, in marketing, we talk about target audiences all the time, but there is that flip side of feeling like, well, am I being discriminatory if I'm only serving this audience? So,
Right.
but how do
And
you
it's
see
still
it? Because you
something that
said,
no,
say
it's
that
still
again.
something that it's still something that I struggle with. It's still something that I think because the goal is
Hmm.
not to be non-inclusive, right? It's to be very
Hmm.
intentional about the people that I'm serving
Hmm.
and their need. And so
Hmm.
the reality is a lot of Black artists just don't get the resources and access
Hmm.
to things that they need. And so
Hmm.
my my goal with ILA and all things that I touch is to alleviate some of that pain and some of those barriers so that there's more equity in the creative arts industry. And
Hmm.
so it's, I guess, a twofold thing. I think that saying that this is a organization that's for and serving the Black population here in Chicago,
Hmm.
our creatives and artists, while also saying that, hey, if you're Jewish or if you're Italian or if you're,
Hmm.
Latin, that there's no reason why you could not attend an educational workshop. But just knowing
Hmm.
that these programs are centered around and
Hmm.
supporting that
Hmm.
are Black creatives.
Hmm. Well, you actually opened though with something, Rachel, that's a really good bit. Whenever anyone founds a business, you're trying to identify a need in society. And so
Right.
you had said, maybe just talk a bit more about that, that you saw a need for more resources and support for Black artists. What was missing? And then what kinds of programs do you provide that help address that?
Oh yeah. So when I came home from school with all these internships and travel abroad experience, it still was a bit, I guess, there was still limited access for me because just naturally, I think the creative arts industry is centered on referral. Like, who do you know who's good? And some of
Okay.
the times, people are constantly on contact. And so when a group of us are left out of that contact, then it's just
Hmm.
like this revolving door that we constantly miss. And
Hmm.
so I saw the need to create programming to create visibility because that's one of the issues. We
Hmm.
just need to be there needs to be a place to be found. How
Hmm.
can I sign up when someone is looking to diversify their team or bring
Hmm.
more Black
Sure.
creatives into the fold? Where can I go to do that? That is what I see ILA and Black to serve as that
Hmm.
actual, whether it be a digital location with Black, the platform, or a physical one with the way that we curate events and exhibitions and things that support Black artists here in Chicago in person, it still will be a funnel, if you will, to
Hmm.
accessing the creatives. that should get the
Sure, sure. And
opportunity to
Brianna
serve.
actually emphasizes that as well, that if you don't have a seat at the table, oh, I like it, make your own
Yeah,
table. Actually, and as an artist and designer, it's probably a
yes,
fabulous looking
build it.
table. You know? So,
Yes.
so let's
Mhm.
talk about that because you just kind of touched on it for a second, which is now that you're sort of and actually true because before the pandemic hit, you were actually doing real life in person
Yeah.
events.
Mhm.
So, um, but now talk a little bit. I don't know if people know what 1871 is. Can you tell? Because I'm really excited now. So you're taking the impact you've had with real people, let's say your local community, and now really looking to blow it up into an app.
Yeah.
How are you doing that, and what's the app?
So 1871 is a tech incubator.
Mhm,
It's here in Chicago. It's one of the largest, I believe, and don't quote me. I think it's the largest tech incubator here in Chicago.
mhm. And it's with IIT, right? The Illinois Institute of Technology. Is that where it's based?
They're
They're a partner. Okay.
it's not based there. It's based
Oh,
in the
it's at
Loop.
the
They're a partner. They have many partners, but
okay.
it's at the merchandise. It's at the Mart.
The merchandise mart.
And so
Okay.
yep. So 2 years ago, I was the managing director of the Bronzeville incubator, and they were
Okay.
doing this outreach to other communities outside of the Loop because that's where they're centered. Other incubator programs just to forge relationships. I happened to be the lead there, and I also was someone who was beginning to transition out of that role to serve more of the population I wanted to serve, which were Black artists. And the person that I met in that exchange offered me an opportunity to enroll in their pilot Pyros program. And Pyros is an
Mm.
opportunity for early stage new tech founders to learn about how to position yourself to create an app, to create a
Okay. And I just wanna say that phrase again. I love that title for yourself. Because would you ever thought of that? An early tech stage founder. I love it because you are people sometimes think of like,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
art and artists and like, no, you're like a tech founder, which also is
yeah,
is probably an area. I know we had a guest a couple months ago, and she was talking about like not a lot of women that are in tech. So you're
right,
probably having to kinda make your voice heard in this area as
yeah.
well.
I think it's less than for me, less than 2% of Black women make up early stage tech founders, and then,
Wow.
and not many of us are funded, and so that is another
Mm.
area where
Wait,
with
so is 1871 they provide the space and you're funded through 1871?
no capital, but
Okay.
they
Oh, but you have office space and support
have office
services and stuff.
space, have the programs to kind of help you through building your platform. So
Ah, okay.
it was Pyros that helped to kind of position Black
Got it.
to beta last year. So we did a beta round where we tested the concept between January and March of 2021, where we onboarded about 180 Black artists just to test
Oh,
out
that are
some of
already
the
using the app?
they
Cool.
were, yeah. So it was great to see that a lot of people, number one, found this as a need. So basically,
Okay.
Black is a digital platform where artists can find resources, whether the resources are grants, whether it's space to do
Okay.
work, whether it's each other. Right? We need a
Oh.
place to figure out how to um, move along in our creative pursuits. And so we beta tested last year, learned some things, failed at some things, constantly.
Actually, failing is the best teacher
I
for
think
sure.
so too. Yeah. And before I beat myself, so in the tech world, they say this thing called non-technical founders. I'm her. That's me.
Okay.
I'm non-technical. I know nothing about coding, nothing about what the cloud does, when it's gonna rain in the cloud, none of it. And so I struggle a lot with just imposter syndrome in this space, where
Okay.
it's heavily dominated by white males, and they are the one getting all the funding, and they have all of the tech lingo, and here I am
Mhm,
just with this social impact,
mhm,
tech platform, hoping to make a difference and change, and
mhm,
have no clue how to do so, but just trying. And so
mhm.
we're in this is our second year. We'll be relaunching the
Okay.
platform in the second quarter, so in a
Mhm,
couple months. And excited to just continue to test and
mhm.
continue to fail and continue
Cool.
to serve.
Do you mind if I ask? Because we are, Mike, we are entrepreneurs, and
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, we're making money. Actually, speaking of like women business owners, we're always like, oh, and money.
Yeah.
But how? So you'll have resources that will be there, and then you'll have artists that connect. Is it? How does that work with apps? Is it something where people can access it for free, or is it subscription based? Like, what are you thinking for the business model for it?
Yeah, right now it's a it's a freemium
Hmm.
model. So all folks can sign up to the app for
Hmm.
free. Eventually we'll roll out a subscription based service.
Okay.
So based on the level of need and what you want access to within the app, you pay a monthly subscription for
Hmm.
that. But again, right
Fantastic.
now we're just focused on building the community, sharing out the resources that we have, and relaunching the platform so that it do, what it's meant to do.
Mhm. You know, for people who don't know 1871, I'm wondering if you get the same feeling there. I've been there a couple times,
Mhm.
and it was kind of like what you would imagine as a tech incubator, like people walking around with like gadgets on their heads and holding their laptops, and there's like convening areas, but then you're like in your private office
Yeah.
that's there at the location. So it's just all these people with brilliant ideas. So do you is that how you're finding it? And have you connected with others or found sort of your own community within 1871?
So, so crazy thing, I joined at the end of 2019, and so it was
Mhm,
great to be
mhm,
around all these visionaries and ideas and people who just have so much to lend. And then pandemic, obviously, 2020
mhm,
came and everybody was out of here. So I'll be honest, I hadn't had a lot of time to really settle in and feed
mhm,
off the energy that exists here. But I'm excited to get back. This has been my second time back since we've been in a pandemic.
mhm,
So we'll see. We'll see if that resonates. But every time that I come here, I feel very energized and excited just because of what it represents. It represents folks who have these ideas that want to make a
mhm,
change and difference in the world, whether it
mhm.
be
Right.
with whatever platform and whatever service or product. It's excited to be amongst those doing the
I
same
would think so, and it sounds like from
work.
your preliminary things, there's really a need for what you do. So Brianna asks, would you find that being a part of that special 2%, you feel like you have to prove yourself more in conversations with partners or people you're talking to? Or are you kinda just like, "Look, this is what it is.
Oh,
This is what
that's
we're
a great
doing."
question. At first, yeah, I definitely
Mhm,
was very intimidated. Thought I needed to know all the tech lingo and language. Thought I needed to be at a specific place. But now I'm not. I'm not at all. And I won't say that I don't care. But I have to take my journey and my process for what it is and day by day. And I can't focus on what um, the limitations are in front of me. So, being
sure.
part of that less than 2% is a bit
Mhm,
intimidating, but it isn't going to stop.
mhm,
That's meant for me
mhm.
to do.
Right. Well, and you're the idea and the visionary. So even if you are giving direction, let's say to someone who's technically going to write the code for what it is, all they're doing is taking your
Right.
vision and putting it into a different language, literally. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
this is our part of the show where we're going to go to the flash photo stories. So,
I love
Rachel has
it.
shared some photos with me ahead of time, and I'm going to flash the photo on the screen, and then you tell me like a just a 1 to 2 sentence story about what's happening in this photo.
Okay. So I hosted a private dinner for Black artists in the city last month. And this is a group shot that we took. Basically, Sensational Power is a series that will highlight and celebrate Black artists in the city to forge connections to celebrate them and to help them understand that their power is valuable. And so
Mhm.
this was the shot there.
Wow, that does look great. So it's all artists. How do you find who's involved? How does and I mean that's I think actually just building community. I feel like community begets community. Like just getting that many people who are artists and have that much creativity in one room, it had to have been an amazing evening.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And I mean, the question that you asked about how do you build it or how have I,
Mhm,
it's been a long 5 years. I've been doing
mhm,
ILA for 5 years. And so it's
mm,
always
okay.
building and saying, hey, come to this.
Mhm. I love it. I always point that out when we do this thing is that when people have this amazing success, everyone always wants to go, God, that's so lucky. That's so cool. And there is always that reminder. It's like, yeah, it took 5 years and, and it was hard, but it's so exciting to see when it coalesces into
Yeah.
these things. Because
Yeah.
what's happening here, this looks
So
like a
this
lot
is
of
the
creativity
incubator that I
happening.
was managing, the Brownsville
Okay.
Incubator. This was a group networking event that a friend and I, Brittany Applegate, we ran called Creative Sips. Creative Sips was intentional gatherings of creative minds, Black creative minds, to kind of basically have a vent session, talk about some of those things that
Mm.
were pressing, some of those things that made us
Mhm.
angry about being the, minority group and represented in the creative arts industry. Talked about things to help ease some of that frustration. And so I really looked at Creative Sips as like these group therapy sessions for Black
Mhm.
creatives where we kind of gathered and talked and supported one another. So
Mhm.
Creative Sips is no longer a program of ours, but it has transitioned into what those sensational power dinners
Okay.
to represent.
It's interesting, Rachel, because just going back to our earlier conversation about, should we be single group? Should we be, serving everybody? And even if it's a broad parallel, but the idea of even like if someone's doing restorative justice, if they want to find out like what issues are,
Yeah.
oftentimes, even with restorative justice, you always do single groups first because there's often more honest sharing if when you're in a group of people where
Yeah.
you've had similar experiences. So
Yeah, I
there's
agree.
logic there. Before we go to the next photo, I just want to
It's a
share
level of
this.
comfort.
Yep. Yeah. Which happens whatever your group is. It's like when they talk about
Yeah.
sort of code switching. I know even like if I'm at synagogue, all of a sudden I'm like throwing out all these like Yiddish words and stuff. And people who know else would be like, I didn't even know you like knew those words.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I believe you've achieved beyond all my expectations and wonder how you stay focused and remain committed to the journey. Now, this isn't your mom, right?
This is
Achieving
my
beyond.
mom. Hey, mom.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love it. Your daughter's amazing. She really is. So your mom wants to know actually if you're eating well and how you stay focused and
I
remain committed to the
have
journey.
my smoothie. How am I staying committed? Well, you helped me primarily having a very strong tribe, a very strong network. I have many times wanted to quit, and I've
Mhm.
many times cry and many times feel like, again, imposter syndrome. I'm still very young, still have a lot to learn. And so I think that in and of itself helps me also to continue to switch perspective when things do get hard. That I really am just getting started, and it's so much more to do, and it's so many more
Mhm.
people to serve, and that really is the commitment to my people is
Mhm.
what will forever push me. And then the divine alignment that God has placed down in me to do this work is what also keeps me consistent.
I love that. Both those things you just said are so wonderful because sometimes with everything going on in the world, it's so easy to be like, I can't do anything. What do I do? But the idea that God acts through us, that we're
Mhm.
like this vessel that's bringing it into the world, but also starting with service.
Yeah.
Starting with service. Like if you get frozen and trying to work, think about who you can call, who you can serve, because
Yes.
that's always a way to get out of yourself to work.
Yep.
We are so close on time, but when did you launch? So this is your launch when you launched Black. When did you actually launch it? When's this from?
This is January 28th, I believe, 2021. It was the
Okay.
27th or the 28th, but this was the image I posted on social media when
Mm.
I made the official announcement. This also is very funny because this is from a random photo shoot my sisters and I and our children had in Atlanta on the side of a road. So I don't know if you can see back in the background.
Oh, that's so funny with the flowers. How did you find that's
It was
amazing.
so beautiful. But yeah, we
Yeah,
pulled over and started taking pictures, and Black overshadowed that. I added that on top.
fantastic. So, which it could be an analogy that
It
launching an app, it's like overshadowing your entire
could.
life, but that's okay. That's exciting. It's
Yeah.
creative excitement. And
Yeah.
what's this one?
So what year are we?
We're
2020. Okay,
2022.
2 years ago. Museum of Science and Industry actually invited me to talk with kids about what careers that they can explore in art.
nice.
So this is a picture of that day. This was actually like a month before the pandemic, but this was me very excited and full because I love talking to the youth and kids. And they were very excited to learn that there's not just one aspect of art that you can explore: dance,
Right.
literature,
So
whatever.
cool to know that you can actually make a business in art. Fantastic. Here's our last photo, and then we're gonna finish up with our last section of the show. What's going on here?
This is me and my baby. This is Jordan Ray. We were in Galveston, Texas. Galveston was, it was just a trip we took for spring break. I wanted to, we'd never gone, and so that's where we landed. And little fun fact, this is where the last slaves were notified that they were free. This is what the celebration of Juneteenth stemmed from.
So you're like right on the spot there. Amazing. In that city. Wow.
To be in the environment and kind of feel the space of my ancestors. So yeah, it was nice.
That's really cool. Sounds like Jordan probably gets to do a lot of art. Like it sounds like just with the history and the art and the meaning, like how exciting for to bring all that as a parent. I mean, we bring ourselves to everything we do, whether it's parent or our jobs or whatever, but it's really exciting to see you doing that. All right, my friend, here is the last section of our show. We are at the flash exercise. So I had warned you that we are going to do, I teach aerobics as well. I teach group fitness. So I always like to do an exercise at the end that I have chosen specifically for you. It's a real exercise that you could do at your desk. I'm going to make myself full screen for just a second so that I can show you the exercise. It's a tricep. It's actually a tricep. It's either a tricep strength or stretch. All right. So what I want you to do is raise it's going on screen, but raise your arm up, bring your elbow by your ear, and then bend your arm so that it's behind you like that. So right there. So if you stop here, it's just a stretch. It's a tricep stretch. If you grabbed a small weight or like any even object on your desk, you can do weightlifting. You can actually bend and extend. I'm going to bring you back so we can both do it. You can bend and extend and do the exercise. You got it. So that's a tricep strengthening exercise. And then this is a tricep stretch. Rachel Gadson, why did I pick the tricep for you?
Why did you? Why?
Any idea?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't know. Here we go. Because Rachel Gadson, I am so proud of you and your great work. You should pat yourself on the back for your great work.
That's amazing.
And as you pat yourself on the back, you know that it's like, all right, now I got to do this. Okay, I did it. Pat yourself on the back again. Now I got to launch an app. I did it. Pat yourself on the back again. There you go. So repetitive back patting.
I love it.
Oh, thank you so much.
I will always be reminded of that. Thank you so
much. Thank you so much for joining us. So you can find Rachel ILA Creative Studio on Instagram. You can find her at ilacreativestudio.com. And definitely we want to keep following you on We Are Black. And that stands for Bold Leaders in Art, Culture, and Community. So thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. Keep us posted on what you're doing. And we hope to see you again next time. Okay. Oh, there you go. Brianna's going to pat herself on the back as well.
Yeah.
All right.